Are dreams just random images fired from an unconscious brain during sleep? Or something much more important, like life-saving inner guidance? How dreams can be healing and early warning tools for disease, financial crisis, or success. And love is still one of the behavioral science's greatest unanswered questions. Hello, I'm your host, author Kat O'Keefe Kanavos. Welcome to Dreaming Healing, where dreams and cutting-edge scientific research meet on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Dreaming Healing is every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, when you can call in and ask Kat questions about your amazing dreams. Talk on air. Call toll-free 833-220-1200. That's 833-220-1200. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kat Kanavos, host of Dreaming Healing on Dream Vision 7 radio network. My name is actually Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos, but hey, my friends all call me Kat, so I hope you will too. If you are just listening to this show and you would actually like to watch it, you can go to my website, which is Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos, Kathleen Okeefe Kana, V as in Victor, OS as in Sam. And on my website, if you look up in the right-hand corner, you'll see a little black button. Click on that and it will take you to my website on Dream Vision 7 radio network. And you'll see a little TV with a little antenna on it. Just click that and you get to watch us. Then you can watch all the archives as well. It's just like having your own little TV show on your screen. Another way you can do it if you don't want to spell out my name is just go into the search bar and type in Kat, K-A-T, the Queen of Dreams. And it'll take you right to my website and then follow the directions. Click the black button and then click the little TV and you get to watch us. Okay, so tonight our guests are authors Peter Canova and James Redfield. The name of the show is Quantum Spirituality Talks Celestine Prophecy. So what exactly are the spiritual commonalities between quantum spirituality and the Celestine Prophecy? Are they in any way connected to parallel universes? If yes, might your dreams be one of those parallel universes? Our guests and experts in the field of spirituality, Peter Canova and James Redfield, say yes, and they're going to explain it during the show. So let me tell you a little bit about our guests tonight, as if you don't know who James Redfield is, but let's pretend like you don't, okay? Businessman Peter Canova is a multi-award-winning author, speaker, inspirational visionary, Dream Vision 7 video network TV podcaster. He's a blogger and syndicated magazine columnist. His book, Pope Annalisa, has won 10 national and international book awards. His latest book, Quantum Spirituality, sold out of the first printing and became an instant Amazon bestseller. The foreword is by our other guest tonight, James Redfield, author of the Celestine Prophecies. And actually it's prophecy, even though there were many of them in there. And endorsed, Peter Canavos' Quantum Spirituality, it was endorsed by Dr. Bernie Siegel, former HBO executive Scott Carlin, and Betsy Chase, co-creator of the famous What the Bleep Do We Know documentary. Quantum spirituality uses science and mysticism as the twin yardsticks to indicate that our physical world is the holographic projection of forces from other planes of existence, the sum total of which we call our reality. You can learn more about him at petercanova.com, and that's PeterCanova. And for those of you who are watching and just listening, You can go to my website on the Dream Vision 7 Radio Network platform, and Peter and James's bios are up there, and they're hot linked. So you can just click those links and it'll take you right to their website so that you can see what they're doing, get their books, whatever you want to do. Okay. So James Redfield is the #1 New York Times and international best-selling author. He is an American author, lecturer, screenwriter, and film producer. He is notable for his novel, The Celestine Prophecy, that discusses various psychological and spiritual ideas rooted in multiple ancient Eastern traditions and New Age spirituality. He has been keenly interested in human spirituality all his life. As a young man, he studied Eastern philosophies, and while majoring in sociology at Auburn University, he received a master's degree in counseling and spent more than 15 years as a therapist to abused adolescents. Yeah, that's hard. You can learn more about him at www.celestinevision.com/community-open. Again, this is on the website on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network on my page, Dreaming Healing, and you can just click on those and go right to the pages. You don't have to try to remember this or write it down. So welcome to the show, Peter and James.
Hi, nice to be here.
Thank you.
So let's start out what I'm going to do is give you both the same questions, because I know your answers are going to be parallel, but they're not going to be the same. And that's what's going to make this show so exciting. And if at any time, and I never do this, so I don't know what's going to happen, but if either of you want to ask the other one a question about something that they answered, feel free to do it. I'd really kind of like to have this be a flowing dialogue more than, you know, an interview. I really want this to have some grit to it. So let's start with you, Peter. What is quantum spirituality and Gnosticism, and how are they connected?
Well, quantum spirituality is a term that I coined, and what it really is a roadmap for experiencing extraordinary awareness or higher consciousness. And like any map, it has coordinates. So, you know, we have latitude and longitude, or we have north and south. The coordinates that I use are science, quantum science, and ancient spiritual wisdom, because I found striking, you know, similarities between those two, pointing and indicating, you know, the same things about the creation, about the nature of consciousness, and about our reality, our perceived reality. So that's really what quantum spirituality means. And the Gnostics were an ancient mystical sect that were located in Alexandria, Egypt, which at the time was the intellectual capital, at least of the Western world. And as such, they had a tremendous confluence of wisdom from different spiritual sources: Hinduism, Persian Zoroastrianism, Hermetic Egyptian traditions, Hellenistic philosophy. And those traditions already had some elements in common. We call it today the perennial philosophy. There were elements in common to all these cultures. Of course, they varied over the decades and over the years from culture to culture, but the Gnostics were able to sort of combine all of these. And what I really liked about the Gnostics compared to many other spiritual traditions is their practicality. The Gnostics to me were the scientists of the ancient world, and they practiced and they brought back information, much like in the shamanic tradition. Shamans would cross over to another dimension and bring back information that would be healing or that would be helpful in this dimension. So that's why I sort of settled in on the Gnostics amongst other spiritual traditions.
Good. So James, Celestine Prophecy, why did you choose that as the title to your book, and how does that How is that still relevant today with prophecies and things that are going on in our present?
Well, the Celestine Prophecy was a novel.
Mm-hmm.
And a novel lets you do a lot of things. And one of those things is to describe characters as they change and as their will shifts to maybe intuition and in all the interchanges that are very difficult to describe from an objective point of view. So, Celestine was a long write, and it was, what I really wanted was a journey that I thought would describe the opening consciousness that was happening at the time and is still happening spontaneously out there. And I think that, my real goal with the Celestine Prophecy was to make the reader have a spiritual experience and explore the experience that the narrator of the book is having. So it's a first-person narrator, and it was just a device, a kind of, I really wanted to use some of the material, some of the explorations of consciousness that I had had personally, but that also had seen other people having, and the object really was to make it a real possibility. So if the book brings you to this spiritual experience that people are having, then what happens is that you tune in to see, as a reader always does, to see, well, what is that experience like? And so I got reports of the book that people had mystical experiences at each of the 12 chapters. And, it was really a kind of experiment. So one that I created my own label to get out there, and it just went viral when viral was not really even the word it is now. So anyway, it was an attempt to point to consciousness in a way that people could not just understand that consciousness was happening, but to have those explosions of consciousness, those eruptions, the archetypes, as Peter might call them. But the idea with the Celestine Prophecy was to give them an experiential read, and it just took off. It went all over the world. It was the best-selling book in the world for 2 years. I mean, it was a wonderful kind of thing to see, because it really did, I think, prove what I was arguing, was that was that there was an opening in consciousness. And I think that's happening today. In fact, I think because of the clampdown we were all in, we lost a lot of our material coping devices in that lockdown. And what came in, not just with the angst and the fear and all that, was a new look at life from a spiritual point of view, because life it was shocking in those few years, and so I believe that alone has enough people looking for consciousness now to shift a lot in the next little while, really.
Mm-hmm. I agree. What I found with, I read both books, and I found that as I was reading the books, they kind of opened the doors in the hallways of my mind. Some of the doors I didn't even know they were there. And yet the experience that I was experiencing from, that armchair travel was actually opening doors, possibilities. And you don't think, James, you don't think of your book as being a novel. When you're reading it, you're in the book. It's real. And so the mind doesn't know the difference between a novel and reality. If the experience speaks to you, it's real then. So I'd like to throw this question out to both of you. And we'll start with you, Peter. Since you are fans of each other's books and works, and James, you wrote the foreword for Peter's book, Quantum Spirituality, did you see or have you seen parallels between your books, despite the fact that Celestine Prophecy is a novel and Peter's book, Quantum Spirituality, is a nonfiction? So let's start with you, Peter.
Well, actually, my very first work, Pope Annalisa and the First Souls Trilogy, were novels. Like James, I decided to go the route of a novel for various reasons. But, here's what I find really fascinating in being on the show with James and listening to him. There's a German word called Zeitgeist. It means spirit of the times. And that's why the Celestine Prophecy was such a seminal work. I mean, it was the work of its generation. People of my age in particular, I'm dating myself here a little bit, but people of my age, I think so many were affected by the Celestine Prophecies, because like so many timely books and relevant books, it articulated what was on the edge of people's consciousness at the time, but maybe they hadn't articulated it. But the Celestine Prophecy did, talking about noticing synchronicity, the fact that the world has a spiritual design to it, sensing, your life's mission and things. These were things that really were fomenting down at the bottom at that time. And I think the Celestine Prophecy brought it up to the top. So I kind of see James was kind of like the pioneer, and I'm the guy that followed in the wake in a way. And the parallels were really, really remarkable, because I also got into this because of very vivid spiritual experiences that I had that altered the course of my life. I mean, I was and am still an international businessman. And, this is a pretty big departure from what you would think the trajectory of that kind of life is. But I got into this because I had experiences that opened up other dimensions and other worlds to me, and other sources of information. So kind of like James, what I'm really trying to do is help people have their own experiences and become their own prophets, so that at the end of the day, they don't really have to listen to people like James or myself or anybody else, because they can have their own experiences. And, direct experience is the highest form of knowledge, because somebody can tell you that fire burns, but until you stick your hand in the fire, you don't own that knowledge. But experiential knowledge, like the Gnostics would say, is the highest form of knowledge. So, I think both of us, what we're aiming at is to help people get to that point where it, opens their minds up, that they can have these extraordinary experiences with higher information.
That's amazing. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. So James, since you read Peter's book, since you wrote the foreword, what parallels do you see between your books, despite the fact that yours was a novel and Peter's was nonfiction? Did you see any parallels at all?
Oh, absolutely. Immediately. Because, this is, and Peter would, I'm sure, agree with me. His book is a series of revelations. And I think I may have hinted at that in the forward, that, these, talking about these experiences are not the same thing as having these experiences. So I noticed in the book immediately that Peter wanted the reader to grasp on to, a new history of Gnosticism, but in a way that made consciousness more real, and elevated it to something that was hidden away for a long time, and is now servicing in our time, which I absolutely agree with. And it's the the elements of the higher consciousness, and again, it is that elevation to journey, because both in my book and his book, there's an elevation of into journey, into self-discovery, and this, of course, the synchronicities. It's if synchronicity is real, if mysterious coincidences come by and happen, and we get something that opens our life or changes our direction in life, well, that's help. And if we get synchronistic help in this life, then we live in a spiritual universe. We can limit it, reduce it to material, and which we've done now for 4 or 5 centuries, but we're breaking out of that now. And I think there's a lot of voices, but I think Peter's book, by treating it as a secret, that's been revealed, it's just a great way to have people really explore the higher meaning of what he's talking about in the history and all the rest.
So you were both talking about these spiritual experiences that you had while you're writing your books, which makes perfect sense to me, because you are in this other realm. You're in your book as you're writing your book. You are that character. You are that first person narrative person in that book. So Peter, I'm going to start with you. Did you have any spiritual experiences that you felt happened while you were actually writing the book? Maybe, James was kind of hinting towards synchronistic help. Did you see any synchronicities going on? Did you see any of that?
Well, I mean, the synchronicities that led up to my writing of books were astounding. I mean, and I really believe what it has to do with is, what did the Bible say? Seek and ye shall find. If you are a seeking mind, and I think this is one of the most important stepping stones to higher consciousness, is desire. To have a burning desire within you to understand what this world is about and what your place is in the world. And if you have that, and you dwell in that level of consciousness, things will come to you. Help, as James said, help will come to you. Help is there. And yeah, I had many experiences that led me to that.
Can you hold one of those experiences, Peter? Unfortunately, I didn't realize it, but we have to go to break. When you come back, we want to hear what your experience was. So you are listening to Dreaming Healing on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. I'm your host, Kat Kanavos. Don't go away. This is exciting, and we're going to be right back.
What if dreams can diagnose your life? What if we can meet the love of our life in dreams? Join host Kat O'Keefe Kanavos, the #1 internationally best-selling author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Duke University medical doctor Larry Burke. Dreaming Healing is where we'll explore dreams, research, and interpret dreams from you, the caller. Dreaming Healing shows can be heard every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love Crying and Laughing Through Mayhem to Miracles. Sacred Stories of Transformational Hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velarde's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
In a world facing annihilation, a miraculous African nun rises to become the first female pope through a web of war, murder, and betrayal. Loved by some, hated by many, she becomes the deadly target of Islamic terrorists and her own cardinals as she introduces a new vision that will either save humanity or accelerate its destruction. 4 people must race against a nuclear holocaust to learn her astonishing secret. Pope Annalisa is available at petercanova.com, Amazon, and other online booksellers and bookstores worldwide.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Welcome back to Dreaming Healing on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. I'm your host, Kanavos, and you are listening to Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, and this is Dreaming Healing. We are talking about James Redfield and Peter Canova's books. And so I wanted to get some personal experience that they may have had while they were writing their books, because that's when it happens. Whether you go to sleep, you have a dream, and whatever it is, it's always profound to me. So I want to get into that nitty gritty. So just before the break, Peter was talking about some of the spiritual experiences that he had while he was writing Quantum Spirituality. So take it away, Peter.
Well, let me go back a little bit before Quantum Spirituality. When I wrote the First Souls trilogy, and Pope Annalisa, there were large segments of time where I felt I wasn't even writing the book. It was almost like automatic writing, that information was flowing through me. And the information would not only come through my mind, but it would also come through, chance meetings with other people, little things that they would say that would break a log jam in my mind that I was trying to express in the book. Because one of the things, and I think James probably realizes this too, when you start talking about consciousness, or in my case also quantum physics, that's pretty heady stuff for a lot of people. It's not the easiest thing in the world to communicate. So one of the toughest tightropes that at least I walked was trying to break down complex ideas and experiences and make them understandable and relatable to people. So a lot of times when I was like saying, oh my gosh, how am I gonna express this? I'd have a conversation with somebody, or something was mentioned, or I might see something on even on television, or picked up a book that answered my question. So things like that, were constantly occurring. But I also had synchronicities in my earlier life that helped me out when I was on my spiritual journey. People appearing out of nowhere. When I was in Africa, this bush doctor, what they called a bush doctor, appeared, and he stopped me on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, and essentially he started telling me about my whole life, where I was at spiritually, and issues that I was having, and everything else. Unsolicited. It sounds surprising, but after a while I got used to stuff like this happening. It became commonplace. So synchronicities are very important. Also, I think, as James might have pointed out in the Celestine Prophecy, you got to learn how to notice these synchronicities. These things, flashes of insight and synchronicities, can happen in a split second. And in most of us, our minds tend to dismiss them almost in the moment they arise. So part of the trick to this whole thing is learning to recognize these signs.
So James, I'm going to give you the same question. What were some of these spiritual experiences that you may have had while you were writing your book, or maybe, you're in the middle of writing another book now. You're having them now too?
Well, it's always happened with me, certainly in Celestine. I was, I was in the creation of the book as a journey. And, it started off, with one of these, big moments, in meditation. I was actually two miles into an old growth forest, and I was, it was a point in my life where I was trying to, probably get the courage to become a writer. I was in social services and loved that. It turned out that was a laboratory for all the controlled dramas and lots of other things that were principles in the book. But I was out, way out in the forest, and I just slipped into a daydream. And I used to just not tell this because it sounded too special or something, or too picked out. But I tell it all the time now because it happens to other people all the time. So I slipped into this daydream, and it's, if you think of your most powerful daydream, I guess you have to call it a vision. But I just slipped into this daydream about the future and me in the future, and I saw it all. I saw it all. The really laboring, writing a book, which was already inside, but I didn't know it really. You have to be brave to start writing.
Gotta get some thick skin.
But I started. I just saw the movie just flashing in what was probably no more than 2 or 3 minutes, in which I saw it all, the drudging up, sweating blood, trying to get the book finished, trying to make it really impactful. And what came mostly there was to Peter's remark, you have to let it come. Now in a novel, it's kind of fun to do that because you can let the actors kind of loose, and where you're trying to get with this couple of pages you're writing. But then, they sometimes just, and it's kind of the automatic of the writing, they'll decide to go in a bookstore, something that I'd never thought of in terms of that journey. So I learned to let the characters lead the way, and it was just that meant writing the book. I was in the book as it unfolded, and so maybe it's easier in a novel and a story, and I'm sure, but it's all they made it. I would let the characters do something, and then I said, okay, I don't know how this is going to get me to my next benchmark in the book, but it always did, and it was always very impactful as a plot point, that would give the reader an aha and a revelation and that sort of thing. So I also felt that Celestine wrote itself, and but it was a kind of, and I've talked to a lot of novelists and writers, and they all say the same thing. You can't sit around and dream all that stuff up and get it in the correct outline, and you've got to let it go some. But it was really fun to me. Now, I ran into people that helped me, showed up every step of the way, because I don't know if you remember, but I back then, I wrote the book, and then I passed it around for, a while to test it. And I knew it was going to be a pass along. So I really wanted to, get all the information about what's the state of publishing right now. Well, the state of publishing then was that the publishers absolutely, for a new novelist, stole the first book. In other words, they would give you so few of a percentage of the sales that you just had to give away the first book to get your second book from them, right? So I thought that was unkind, and we just created our own bookmark, our own title and our own company, and did it like a small publisher would do it, and that really turned into the right thing to do, because Celestine, of course, gathered momentum because of the pass along effect, and all that was because I finally bumped into a friend of a friend who I had no idea had any book experience, but he had worlds of book experience, and just at the right time to save me from the publishers, But it was all of these kinds of, these are no different though from other creations that people have. That's why it's so important to talk about all this, because we're destined. This world is designed for us to be able to find that dream, that's ours, and to live that dream. And I think we're just now getting a handle on all the ways that we can get aligned with the design of this universe. I think my real thought is that humanity will not stop trying to control each other until we discover enough of these spiritual experiences that we can really realize that it's the mission, and the mission opens up for us, and that's better than any kind of power or any amount of money. That experience.
I agree. Well, hold that thought, everybody, because we have to take another break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about parallel universes. You see how I'm just going a little more out there. So don't go away. We'll be right back. You're listening to Dreaming Healing on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network.
What if dreams can diagnose your life? What if we can meet the love of our life in dreams? Join host Kat O'Keefe Kanavos, the #1 internationally best-selling author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Duke University medical doctor Larry Burke. Dreaming Healing is where we'll explore dreams, research, and interpret dreams from you, the caller. Dreaming Healing shows can be heard every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Omega Institute, offering workshops, retreats, and online learning dedicated to awakening the best in the human spirit. For over 40 years, Omega has seen more than 1 million people come through its doors to grow, learn, and find a greater sense of purpose. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 800-944-1001.
Why are we here? How can we be happy? Questions asked from millennials to boomers. Crappy to happy. Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy answers them using true stories of grit, grace, and love. James Redfield, author of the Celestine Prophecy, wrote in the foreword, "This book is a seminar about emerging truths and offers grounded solutions through the art of the comeback." Dr. Bernie Siegel, a contributing author, wrote, "Bodies die, but spirits and consciousness survive and recycle." So, grab some tissues, open your book, and prepare to cry and laugh till it heals. Crappy to Happy by Reverend Ariel Patricia and Kathleen O'Keefe Canavos. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and booksellers worldwide. Darkest hours to brightest moments. Transformation from despair to happiness. And chaos to clarity. Real people, real pain, real healing. Life-threatening illness, death, abusive relationships, divorce, and overcoming addiction are challenges these men and women faced head-on. See how they emerged stronger and happier. Buy the new book, Chaos to Clarity, Sacred Stories of Transformational Change by Reverend Patricia Caginello and Kathleen O'Keefe Canavos. Available on sacredstoriespublishing.com and worldwide through Amazon and other retailers.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Welcome back to Dreaming Healing on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. I'm your host, Kat Kanavos, and we are speaking with Peter Canova and James Redfield about their books, Quantum Spirituality and Celestine Prophecy. Just before the break, we were talking about personal experiences that both of these amazing authors had when they were writing their books. So what I'd like to do now is go a little deeper into that by talking a little bit about parallel universes, universal oneness. Oh yeah, all of that. So we're going to start with you, Peter. And this is your personal opinion, and how you want to explain this or give examples is completely up to you. Do you think that quantum spirituality and Celestine prophecy and science and mysticism and universal oneness and parallel universes are all connected? Or do you think they even exist?
Well, let me kind of answer that by first expounding on something that James said about the writing process. What I found at the end of the day, the characters in my novels were actually different aspects of myself. It was myself speaking to myself, but they all had distinct individual voices. So, where did these voices come from? Well, my personal opinion is that we are multidimensional creatures, and that versions or iterations of us exist at different levels of reality. So what we call spirit guides, and I could really hear them speaking to me when I was writing my books, could be basically versions of ourself that are dwelling at higher vibrational frequencies, which is what I really believe parallel universes are. Now, a lot of people tend to get stuck and think of parallel universes as a place, as spaces. In the Gnostic view and in my own view, that's not so much the case as much as they are vibrational frequency levels, differing levels of vibrational frequencies, which can also be translated to say different levels of consciousness. In the Gnostic scheme of things, there was the supreme source of the supreme consciousness, and it projected itself out in various dilute forms into other points of consciousness that were distinguished from one another by their level of awareness or their frequency, the vibration of their frequency. Quantum physics, all life is vibration and frequency. So that's how I see parallel universes. And I think that the way that they affected me is through what I would say, like these characters speaking to me and realizing that they were different aspects of myself that probably, I have at different levels of vibration. I probably have better awareness up there than I do down here, but fortunately, a lot of that bleeds down, and so we can produce creative works and works that are impactful and meaningful and instructive to other people.
Great. So I'm going to give it to you now, James. Do you think quantum spirituality, your Celestine Prophecy, science, mysticism, the universal oneness, and parallel universes are all connected? Do you think they even exist?
Well, they're probably conversations about the one thing. I mean, it's they're all languages, and just, I mean, they're both languages and descriptions. What they do, though, is, quantum mechanics, all the mathematics, it all is very, very esoteric. They had to go in that direction. I just think that that focusing on physics, the way Peter did, was important, because we're stuck in a kind of physics, science described world. And quantum physics, of course, is the way back to unity and wholeness, multidimensionality, all those things. So the physics that materialized the world has now opened it up to wonder and possibility, and chance, and action at a distance. All those things came with modern physics, and I think certainly it was. I think boomers, when we came of age, we knew the world was seen as too materialistic, and life was seen as too banal, and there was too much denial of death, and or the impact of death, or the occasion of death. I mean, it was kind of a materialistic world in the 50s and 60s, that to bear some history on it, where the boomers rebelled, but it wasn't just a war. It was a materialism, and of course, boomers, in the 80s, sort of thought, well, I'm free now. Boy, there's really a lot of money to be made out there. Better get going. So we moved back into the material world a little bit, but something was loosed in terms of the spiritual possibilities in the world that weren't religious, and that's what I see being sort of reinstilled with what Peter's book, that get into that you live in a spiritually amazing world of possibility. And I think that, again, that the clampdown really popped our, especially boomers, really popped our materialistic slumber, and awakened us. So I think there was a big awakening. There still is an awakening, and I think that what's again, the book I'm writing now, you mentioned, is about what happened in the last 4 years. What really happened to consciousness, and it's not large, but you can sort of see it in the awakening of first political sensitivities about freedom, and not losing that, and it's an awakening that opened us up to what could be lost if certain forces in the world really succeed in what they're doing, and all that is again a call to mission, a call to
Yeah, it is.
Stepping into the side of this world that where spiritual help is available, that mysterious hands can guide you on a true journey of saving the world. So, and we've got, interesting thing is that we've got two new generations involved in this, and they're the millennials, of course, are just passing 40, the leading edge. So that's a big step. That's a big place of self-realization, that age, the astrology of that age. And then, of course, you have the Z's, and the Z's are, still, I believe, the way I count it, 0 to 25 or so. And so they're just awakening to the possibilities for their lives, and they're jolted awake because of what happened. I mean, the fear, of course, is that everybody will just say, oh, that just happened. It was a mistake, maybe, or whatever it was, but we got to move on and go right back into the scientific materialism where the experts can have reign, and we don't check behind anything. So I think there's a possibility of that awakening going, especially spiritual, because that's the important way to go, I believe.
Kat, can I just say that I had a conversation with James, and he was enlightening me a little bit about his book, and I can hardly wait for it to come out. I think it's going to be a very brave book in this sense. People like us that write about spiritual matters, they often just don't get down to the earth, and they talk about the effects that it has in a political sense, an economic sense, and everything else, because they're afraid of offending one group or another. But our spiritual outlooks and the way we view the world certainly affects the actions that we take in the material world and the consequences and everything. And it sounds to me like James is going to be talking about that, and I think that's a pretty brave thing, because a lot of people in our field tend to avoid things like that. They don't want to get down in the mud and talk about stuff like that. But it's life. It's about life, and that's what that I think is, as authors and as observers and as experiencers of the things that we're talking about. I mean, if you don't bring it down to a practical level, what good does it do staying up in the atmosphere for anybody?
Yeah, and it's also, you can't stay conscious if you go unconscious. Let me put it this way: you can't really open up fully to your consciousness if you are limiting one side of your eyesight, where you don't want to look at this. Maybe we would call it the dark side. Maybe we would call those in error. But what happens is if you have to repress that, and have a coping device of materialism or whatever, then you can't get to the greatest consciousness, which would be a consciousness that includes what we might call a dark side, or negative actions in human behavior. So if we're going to stay and pursue the consciousness, and I think that's inevitable. I think that's the why we're here. In other words, that's the human mission, is to pursue a unified consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, I think consciousness is really our greatest guarantor of freedom, because unfortunately, so many people get led around by others, by mass mind thought, and by others, and their opinions are formed, by a bombardment of what they see in the news and political ideologies and everything else. And how do we discern? It's only by the exercise of better judgment, a higher form of consciousness, that we can, discern and make decisions about how we're going to conduct things and recognize threats to our freedom. I happen to see a lot of things in this country right now that I'm frankly a little bit wary of in terms of the way things are going. And I think that to bring that to people's awareness from a spiritual perspective is really going to be something exciting. And that's why I'm really waiting for the book to come out. So,
well, we have run out of time, guys. This has been very interesting. I know that James and Peter wanted to get into some discussions at some point. And for those of you who are interested, Peter's going to be talking on the Spirit of the Sea, Spirit at Sea Gratitude Cruise. It's on my Facebook page, Kathleen O'Keefe Canavos, author, speaker, if you're interested. Until next time, thank you again, gentlemen, for being on the show. That's CelestineVision.com and PeterCanova.com. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you for joining us this evening. And a big thanks to our producer. Tune in next time to Dreaming Healing for more cutting-edge research, live dream interpretations, and stories with radio host and award-winning author Kat O'Keefe Canavos. Listen every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time with call-in live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Remember, everyone dreams, but some dreams save lives. Live your dreams. Find more about Kat at KathleenO'KeefeCanavos.com. That's Kathleen with a K. OKEEFEKANAVOS, or The Queen of Dreams on Google search.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.